What's up, fantasy managers? Welcome back to another episode of the First Pitch Podcast brought to you by PitcherList.com. My name is Jake Crumpler, and I'll be your host for this edition of the podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler, and you can find all of my work at CrumplerBaseball.com. Let's dive into everything baseball related from Wednesday, July 2nd. We'll start it off, as always, with the transactions, injuries, news, and notes from around the league, kicking things off with the bad news as starting pitcher Bailey Ober was placed on the 15-day IL with a hip impingement. Ober had clearly been dealing with this injury for quite a while, pitching to a 9 ERA across his last 5 starts, surrendering 7 runs in 3 of those starts. So this may be an extended stint from Ober, but it's definitely a warranted IL placement for him as he's clearly struggling with something, hoping he can get back quickly and get back on track. That's Bailey Ober. In a corresponding move, relief pitcher Cody Funderburk was recalled from the minors, but it looks like starting pitcher Connor Gillespie is expected to join the rotation to replace Ober with a start on Saturday versus the Rays. Next, we have outfielder Kerry Carpenter, who was officially placed on the 10-day IL with a hamstring strain. Outfielder Justin Henry Malloy and shortstop Trey Sweeney were recalled from the minors in corresponding moves. Detroit is likely to use the DH role that Carpenter was filling over the whole season as a revolving quasi day off role. So it looks like right now there is no set DH in Detroit. Malloy got the first crack with the southpaw on the mound, but I think it's going to be a lot of guys moving through that DH role until Carpenter returns. In other Tigers IL placements, starting pitcher Sawyer Gibson Long was placed on the 15-day IL with a neck strain. In a corresponding move, it looks like Reese Olson is going to get the call on Friday to be activated from the 15-day IL to start in Cleveland. Olson had been out with finger inflammation, but Gibson Long landed on the 15-day IL with a neck strain. And lastly, the most notable one of the day, starting pitcher Spencer Schwellenbach was placed on the 15-day IL with a fractured elbow. Sounds terrible, but really when you think about it, he just got a little fracture in his elbow. It sounds like his whole elbow blew out, but not the case. However, he's likely due for an extended absence. Schwellenbach is hoping to return in September, but it's possible he's out for the rest of the season. And the Braves have been dealing with terrible rotational injury luck this year, as prior to Schwellenbach's injury, Reynaldo Lopez had shoulder surgery in April. AJ Smith-Shawver underwent Tommy John surgery in June, and Chris Sale fractured his ribcage just a couple weeks ago and is on the 60-day IL currently. So really unfortunate luck in terms of injuries for the Braves rotation this year. In a corresponding move to Schwellenbach's IL placement, relief pitcher Daysbel Hernandez, who had been out with forearm inflammation, was activated from the 15-day IL. He'll rejoin the Braves bullpen, and it looks like the rotational replacement for Schwellenbach will be Hurston Waldrep, who's expected to be recalled to start on Saturday versus the Orioles. In terms of transactions, first baseman Jake Berger, who had been out with an oblique strain, was activated from the 10-day IL. He will return to being the Rangers everyday DH. Most notably, the corresponding move, third baseman Josh Young was optioned to the minors. He's really struggled this year, batting .237 with 8 homers, 4 steals, and an 82 WRC plus. So he'll head to the minors to try to figure things out. That's Josh Young. Looks like Ezekiel Duran will take over at the hot corner for the Rangers. Next, we have starting pitcher Emerson Hancock, who was optioned to the minors. In a corresponding move, relief pitcher Joe Jacques was selected from the minors, but this is all in preparation for Logan Evans' return to the majors next Wednesday to start in New York. Next, we have starting pitcher Matt Waldron, who's optioned to the minors. In a corresponding move, relief pitcher Eduarniel Nunez was selected from the minors, but this is another preparatory transaction as Yu Darvish is expected to be activated from the 60-day IL on Sunday to start versus the Rangers. He'll make his season debut there. And our last transaction involves outfielder Jurickson Profar, who was reinstated from the restricted list after being suspended 80 games for performance-enhancing drugs use early in the season. Profar homered in his first game back. In a corresponding move, outfielder Alex Verdugo was designated for assignment, which will allow Profar to get everyday at-bats in left field. And in terms of news, outfielder Tyler O'Neill, who's been out with a shoulder impingement, is expected to be activated from the 10-day IL on Friday. Jordan Westberg is likely to move from DH to third base, which will force Ramon Urias to the bench, but it will allow O'Neill to see time in right field or at DH if Ramon Laureano sticks in the outfield. Now we can take a look at our notable performances from Wednesday, a day in which we had a packed slate of 19 games as there was a doubleheaders between the Tigers and Nationals, Padres and Phillies, as well as the Brewers and Mets. And we also saw the Reds and Red Sox resume a suspended game. We'll start it off with our hitters, leading off with outfielder Davis Schneider, who helped the Blue Jays to win against the Yankees, going 2 for 4 with 2 runs, 2 home runs, and 3 runs batted in. He's up to 3 homers now. First one went 410 feet at 103 miles per hour. Second one went 403 feet at 104 miles per hour. Schneider's brief 2023 ascension was exciting but misleading as he fell off the planet last year as strikeouts became a big issue, limiting him to a 79 WRC plus. This year, it's been his playing time that's been limited as Schneider spent most of the season in the minors and has been limited to the short side of platoons at second base and left field in the majors. But Schneider made the most of his opportunities on Wednesday with the first multi-homer game of his career. It's a small sample, but I'd love to see Schneider get a more extended look in Toronto because he's making more contact and whiffing less than ever, which addresses the biggest gripe against him, those strikeouts. Schneider already does a good job of offsetting the strikeouts with power and discipline, but I'm curious to see what he could do with more playing time. However, with Anthony Santander and Dalton Varsho on the mend, that's unlikely. Next, we have outfielder Isaac Collins, who did all he could, but the Brewers lost in Queens in game 1 of their doubleheader. He went 4 for 4 with 2 runs, a double, a home run, an RBI, and a walk. Game 2, he had a pinch hit appearance. He went 0 for 1, but that was Collins' 5th homer of the year. It went 390 feet at 104 miles per hour. And last year, Collins earned a cup of coffee after batting .274 with 14 homers, 24 steals, and a 128 WRC plus at AAA as a 26-year-old. That opened the door for him to open the season on the opening day roster. And while it took a second for Collins to establish an everyday role in the majors, he's far exceeded expectations this year, batting .268 with a 794 OPS. And I think we were fair to have low expectations, honestly, as the late bloomer doesn't really hit the ball hard, relying on his contact ability and plate discipline to carry him. However, Collins' contact metrics are below average, leaving only his 13% walk rate and his wheels to hang his hat on. I'm okay rostering Collins in deep leagues while he's playing every day, but expect him to cool down in the second half. And lastly, we have outfielder Brandon Nimmo, who helped the Mets to win versus the Brewers, I guess, in the second half of that doubleheader. In the first game, he went 0 for 4. Second game, he went 2 for 5 with a run, a home run, 4 RBIs, and a steal to complete the combo meal. Nimmo was up to 16 homers and 8 steals on the season now. His homer traveled 361 feet at 103 miles per hour. And Nimmo is bouncing back nicely from last year's career worst 109 WRC plus, stemming from a 224 batting average that Nimmo made up for with 23 homers and 15 steals. He's maintained those counting stat gains this year, but has yet to reach the batting average heights that saw him produce a 274 batting average in consecutive years from 2022 to 2023. Obviously, we can overlook the batting average if it's serviceable and he produces in other categories. However, StatCast suggests Nimmo's been better than ever this year, sporting a career high 10% barrel rate and a 51% hard hit rate, pointing at an even higher ceiling for him to reach. It's all a result of a more aggressive approach at the plate. Nimmo has long been a patient hitter, entering 2025 with a 13% career walk rate, but a change was necessary after last year's struggles, and he's seen his walk percentage drop to 7.5% this year, but that's been accompanied by improved contact metrics and the aforementioned batted ball quality. This may be a sneaky buy low situation on Brandon Nimmo, but if you'd like more information on other notable hitting performances, check out the daily Batters Box article over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the mound and check out some notable starting pitching performances, opening with Clayton Kershaw, who helped the Dodgers to win against the White Sox, tossing 6 innings, allowing 9 hits and 4 earned runs while walking 1 and punching out 3. He induced 15 whiffs with 33% CSW across 100 pitches, and Kershaw finally reached the milestone of 3,000 strikeouts, making him one of a very small list of pitchers that have reached that milestone. So Kershaw already guaranteed entry into the Hall of Fame when he calls it a career, but 3,000 strikeouts is basically a guarantee there, as CC Sabathia was a first ballot Hall of Famer thanks to his 3,000 strikeouts in his career. But this was really more about the milestone than Kershaw's performance. However, he did his best against a passive White Sox lineup, carving them up with a slider that induced 9 whiffs and 30% CSW, but also served up 7 hits, including a homer, while his sub 90 mile per hour fastball was taken for a whopping 11 called strikes and 38% CSW. Kershaw looped in his signature curve to great effect as well, returning a trio of whiffs and 35% CSW. Obviously, Kershaw is nowhere near what he used to be, and if not for his name value and pitching for the Dodgers, he may not even be worth rostering in standard leagues, but if you have him, you're starting him in Milwaukee up next. Next, we have Jansen Junk, who did all he could, but the Marlins lost to the Twins. He tossed 6 innings, allowing 6 hits and 2 earned runs while walking nobody and punching out 7. He induced 10 whiffs with 29% CSW across 83 pitches. Junk has been somewhat underrated this year, showing flashes of being a fantasy relevant starter. Most notably, he's walked just 1.3% of the batters he's faced this year, and that desire to avoid the free pass may hurt him in the future in terms of loud contact, but it helped him once again on Wednesday as he took down the Twins by filling up the zone with his heater. Batters couldn't handle it, fouling off 9 of them, taking 9 more for called strikes, and whiffing on 4 of them for 41% CSW. Junk supported his impressive fastball with a trio of breakers. His slider was the best of the 3, returning 3 whiffs and 29% CSW, while he saved his curve for lefties and his sweeper for righties. Neither stood out, but both returned strikes at least 70% of the time as Junk continues to fill up the zone and find a lot of success with that strategy. I'm definitely going to respect Junk more as a possible streamer in the future with a solid fastball as his base and great control propelling him to valuable outings from time to time, but I won't be risking it in Cincinnati up next. And lastly, we have Mitch Keller, who helped the Pirates to win against the Cardinals, tossing 7 shutout innings, allowing just 5 hits and 1 walk while striking out 7. He induced 8 whiffs with 25% CSW across 97 pitches. And Keller had a fastball focus in this one, turning to a 4-seamer or sinker more than half the time. His 4-seamer was his go-to whiff pitch as he avoided the heart of the plate to induce 4 swings and misses for 28% CSW, while his sinker stole 5 strikes for 36% CSW. It was kitchen sink from there as Keller turned to 5 other offerings to keep Cardinals hitters off balance. The best of the bunch was a sweeper that returned a pair of whiffs. And ultimately, there's not much to get excited about with Keller. Those 7 strikeouts on just 8 whiffs sort of tell the whole story. He doesn't have the secondaries to propel his ascension into ace-dom via strikeouts. That being said, I did just pick him up in one of my leagues over Tomoyuki Sugano, as Keller has allowed more than 3 runs just once in his last 11 starts and just 3 times all season. So he's been on fire recently. He's been very solid all year with a 3.64 ERA and a 1.19 whip. 10 losses, sort of a little bit scary, but you're not really picking up Pirates pitchers for wins anyway. The ceiling is low with Keller, but we can trust him in Kansas City up next. But if you'd like a breakdown of every single start from Wednesday, give the Plus Pitch podcast a listen and check out Nick's daily SP roundup over on pitcherlist.com. Now we'll head to the bullpen and check out the relievers that got saves and the closers that pitched outside of save situations or blew their saves, starting with the former. I called it. Edwin Uceta recorded his first save of the year as he worked around a run. Pete Fairbanks had pitched on back-to-back days, so we were expecting Uceta to get a save there. Robert Suarez worked around a run to record his 24th save to tie him for the MLB lead, and as he continues to extend his National League lead in saves, Edwin Diaz pitched a perfect 4-out save for his 17th save of the year. Aroldis Chapman is up to 15 saves after his perfect 9th. Yohan Duran pitched a scoreless 9th for his 13th save. Jeff Hoffman recorded his 20th save with a scoreless 9th. Daniel Palencia worked around an unearned run to record his 10th save. Dane Dunning pitched a scoreless 3 innings to earn his 2nd save of the year. Bennett Sousa worked around a run to record his 3rd save. Josh Hader was not overworked recently, so maybe this was just a situation where Coors was affecting Hader and they wanted to go with somebody else. Still a bit weird. Bennett Sousa still benefited from that. And lastly, Andres Munoz pitched a perfect 9th for his 19th save. And in terms of closers to pitch outside of save situations or below their saves, Kyle Finnegan pitched a perfect 9th with a 5-run lead. The Nationals scored 6 runs in the 8th, so that sort of makes sense why he was used in that one. Orion Kerkering pitched a scoreless 8th with a 4-run lead and was followed by Matt Strahm, who pitched a hitless 9th. The Phillies are off today, so they wanted to get their best relievers out there on Wednesday. Devin Williams surrendered 2 runs, pitching the 8th in a tie game. I don't know why Aaron Boone continues to deploy his best relievers in the 8th inning. Emilio Pagan pitched a scoreless 9th with a 4-run lead. The Reds scored 3 in the 8th and are off today, so they were not afraid of sending out Pagan to secure the win. Shelby Miller allowed the zombie runner to score in the 10th and ultimately took his 3rd loss, as Camilo Doval pitched in that one and initiated extra innings, serving up a game-tying 2-run shot in the 9th to blow his 4th save, but He locked in for a clean 10th to earn his 4th win. And lastly, Grant Taylor attempted a 5-out save, but the Dodgers walked it off, tagging him for 3 earned runs and his first loss. Taylor, though, was awarded his 4th hold as a consolation prize for his pair of outs in the 8th. But if you'd like more information on relievers, check out Rick Graham's weekly articles over on pitcherlist.com and tune in to the In the Pen podcast tomorrow night. And before we look forward to today's games, we're going to take a quick break. Now look forward to Thursday, July 3rd, a day in which we'll have just 10 games on the slate. My matchup of the day is Bryan Woo versus Seth Lugo. Bryan Woo has been incredible this year. His fastball is unhittable. And Seth Lugo, this may be one of his last starts for the Royals, as I know he's on the trade block. Royals aren't great this year. Wouldn't be surprised if Lugo gets dealt probably to the Cubs. It seems like the type of pitcher they would want, either the Cubs or the Cardinals. They love those guys who throw slow. In terms of probable starters, we've got 4 guys in the auto starts tier, including both Woo and Lugo. We've also got Robbie Ray in Arizona and Clark Schmidt in Toronto. In our probably starts tier, we've got 1 guy, and in our questionable starts tier, we've got 8. And that's where we'll find our streamer of the day in Cade Horton versus the Guardians. He's not quite lived up to his potential thus far, as his cutter has found less success recently, but Nick is still suggesting that we trust him versus the Guardians. I'd also keep an eye out for David Festa in Miami. Great matchup there, as well as Festa coming off a shutout performance of 5.2 frames against the Tigers. And in terms of hitter suggestions, I'd go for Astros and Rockies hitters in Coors. We'll see a pair of southpaws square off as Brandon Walter will take on Kyle Freeland. I'd also look at Bo Bichette versus Clark Schmidt in Rogers Center. Bichette has batted .333 with a homer and a .1012 OPS and 12 at-bats against Schmidt. I'll also look at Rhys Hoskins versus David Peterson in Citi Field. Hoskins has batted .438 with a pair of homers and a 1,500 OPS in 16 at-bats against Peterson. And lastly, I'm looking at Lourdes Gurriel Jr. versus Robbie Ray in Chase Field. Gurriel has batted .429 with a homer and a 1,357 OPS and a small sample of 7 at-bats against Robbie Ray. And now we'll close things out with our relievers to watch. Jeff Hoffman has pitched in 3 of the past 4 days, but Yariel Rodriguez has pitched on back-to-back days, and Jimmy Garcia threw 34 pitches and blew a save in his return from the IL yesterday, as well as Brandon Little having gone 3 of the past 4 and having a similar Wednesday to Garcia. All that being said, we could still see Hoffman push to his limit, but I likely expect one of Chad Green, Braden Fisher, or even Nick Sandlin to get a save opportunity for the Blue Jays on Wednesday. And lastly, Daniel Palencia has pitched on back-to-back days, but so has Brad Keller. So we're likely to see Porter Hodge over Ryan Presley, who pitched on Wednesday. So I'd expect Porter Hodge to get a save opportunity for the Cubs on Wednesday. But that'll do it for today's episode on Thursday. But that'll do it for today's episode of the First Pitch Podcast. Make sure to head on over to pitcherlist.com to check out all of the great articles and features we have on the site. Sign up for PL Plus or PL Pro to gain access to the Discord and to support the Pitcher List staff. You can follow me on Twitter at Jake Crumpler. Tune in live on YouTube tomorrow and every day for a new installment of the podcast. Trevor Hooth will be with you tomorrow and throughout the weekend, and make sure to enjoy the day as we are blessed with another day of baseball.